Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Safe Point, the supervised consumption and treatment site in downtown Windsor, is pausing operations. We tell you why that is tonight. Plus, the plan to bring in South Korean workers for Nexstar's battery plant is sparking some backlash, with politicians weighing in today, and some of the city's cricket fans are reacting to the 2023 Cricket World Cup final, as advocates of the game say it's largely growing here locally. Windsor's first and only drug consumption and treatment site, Safe Point, will close its doors at the end of the year due to a lack of provincial funding. That was decided at the Board of Health meeting earlier today. The CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa was there, and she joins me now live from outside Safe Point. Jen, it's taken years for this site to become a reality, and now, just months after opening, it's being paused. Why did the health unit decide to do this?
Yeah, so despite this being a very difficult decision, it was one that the health unit really felt like it had to make. It said that it couldn't continue to operate Safe Point without that provincial funding.
When you look at the evidence of the folks that have used it and the amount of folks that have been diverted to social services and other programs in our community, I think that not having the site open is a loss for our community, and I'm concerned in the midst of a crisis that we're under that we would be closing it.
So in August, the Ministry of Health decided to launch a review of all drug consumption and treatment sites in the province. That was after a woman was shot and killed near one in Toronto. And as part of this review, they basically put a pause on all new applications that included Windsor's. So Safe Point opened here in Windsor at the end of April, and that was really after 7 years of hurdles, things like community pushback and political red tape. It opened as it had got approval from Health Canada to operate as an urgent public health needs site, but that doesn't come with funding. So as it waited for provincial approval, which would come with that money, the health unit decided to fund it itself, and that was primarily through its budget as well as community partners and grants. But heading into next year, it really said that in order to keep operating it, it would have had to scale back certain services and programs, something that it couldn't do. It also said that, it's hard to really ask the city, the county, or community partners for money, as everyone is really struggling with finances right now. They also emphasized that this is really under the province's purview, so it should be their responsibility to run this.
Jen, how are supporters of Safe Point reacting to this news?
Yeah, so the people that I spoke with today were disappointed, and they were also really concerned. Angus is one of them. He's someone who used substances for more than 20 years, particularly cocaine and opioids. The past week, he actually celebrated a year of sobriety. Here was his reaction when I told him the news today.
I'm disappointed. I think it's a big mistake. People are going to be forced to be using on the streets again with no safe place to do their drugs. Will they be with somebody to help save their life, possibly? And that's what it comes down to for me. If you want to put it simply, like basically putting a price on people's lives in a way.
So in Windsor, Essex, what we know is that people continue to increasingly die from opioids. The latest data from Public Health Ontario shows that last year, 112 people died. That's an increase of 27 people from the year before, 2021. An advocate that I spoke with today says that this review from the province is unreasonable, and he really worries about people in the community.
If there's a shooting in front of a convenience store, we don't put into question all convenience stores in the province. If there's a fight in a bar or a case of abuse in a bar, we don't shut down the bar.
You're not having this resource past December. Do you worry that we might see more deaths in our community? We might see more overdoses in our community from this?
It's not a matter of we might see more deaths. We will see more deaths, because every single death due to the opioid crisis is preventable by resources like Safe Point.
In an email today from the Ministry of Health, they said that this review that they're doing will inform their next steps, but there's really no timeline on when that will be complete. Meg?
Well, thanks so much for that, Jen. That's the CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa reporting live outside of Safe Point tonight. Controversy has erupted over the number of foreign workers coming to work at the new Nexstar Energy battery plant. More than 1,000 South Korean workers could be arriving to work temporarily to get the plant up and running. Ottawa discussing the plan today with some backlash about why Canadian workers aren't being chosen for the jobs. The CBC's Dalson Chen has been following this story. Dalson, what ignited this issue?
Meg, this came up following a social media post from Windsor Police last week. Police said they met with South Korea's ambassador to discuss the safety of approximately 1,600 South Koreans expected to be living and working in Windsor in 2024. Nexstar is a partnership between Stellantis and the South Korean company LG Energy Solutions, so it was always known that some South Korean workers would be necessary. But the issue became a political football in Parliament Hill today. The plant is benefiting from $15 billion in tax breaks, with assurances that it will lead to Canadian jobs.
How many of these taxpayer-funded jobs are going to temporary foreign workers? We want a commitment that none of the money should go to temporary foreign workers, should only come to Canadians. This is a $15 billion grant to one company.
So this is about Canadian jobs that we can get to build a Canadian facility with Canadian taxpayers' money, but adding in foreign temporary workers into an area that already has a housing shortage is a real concern in many different ways.
Mr. Speaker, we will continue to work with unions. We'll continue to work with Stellantis to make sure that local Canadian workers are prioritized. It's 2,500 good jobs will be created at this plant. Those are the facts, Mr. Speaker.
National Uniform President Lana Payne weighed in today as well. She said the plan raises serious flags for the union, which represents workers at Windsor Assembly Plant. Payne said the industry shift to electric vehicles should be led by good jobs with union contracts for workers in Canada. But she added that clarifying statements from the company have alleviated some of the union's concerns.
Dalson, what does Nexstar have to say about all of this?
Well, we reached out to Nexstar for a statement, and they did respond. They emphasize they are fully committed to hiring Canadians for 2,500 full-time positions at the plant, plus hiring up to 2,300 tradespeople locally and provincially. However, building an EV battery plant requires what the company describes as temporary, specialized global supplier staff who have proprietary knowledge and specialized expertise. An auto analyst says that that's standard practice.
Anywhere you're going to partnership with a foreign entity, you're going to have representation from that foreign entity. It's going to be there at least for the kickoff, especially in a battery electric field. They're not going to just throw money at the situation and assume that the partnership is going to be run only by the domestic partner there. But I still think it's going to be an absolute win for the Windsor community from a Canadian employment perspective in the long run.
And now we're seeing some of the first job postings for Nexstar Energy in Windsor. And under the requirements, those postings say fluency in Korean is preferred.
Well, thanks so much for that, Dalson. That's the CBC's Dalson Chen reporting. The United Auto Workers have ratified new contracts with Ford and Stellantis. That vote happening over the weekend. The contract is similar to the deal with GM that was approved last week. Workers at Ford and Stellantis both voted about 69% in favor. The agreements run through April 2028 and ended contentious talks that began last summer. UAW workers were on strike for 6 weeks at all three automakers. The new contract agreements were widely seen as a victory for the UAW. Cricket fans around the world tuned into the Cricket World Final yesterday. That includes residents here in Windsor, Essex, where a local cricket team came together to watch the match with high hopes that India would beat Australia, which was not the final outcome. Nonetheless, the game still inspiring local players who reflected on the sport's growth across the region.
Back in India, we have been playing cricket for, say, 18, 19 years of our life. To come here way across 7 seas and to be able to play the game of cricket, which we have all been taught to us, which we have been considering it as a religion, right? Cricket is a religion back in India, and to play it in a country where cricket was not even existent before several years. Everybody talks about playing hockey, football, and other sports that are more predominant in this Western world. It's a very good opportunity. I guess the committee that has formed the league is allowing us to get a very good opportunity to play the sport, keep our fitness up, and make sure that the community stays together. sponsors, JP Wisers, WFCU, all of them have been so active and so prominent to help us and make this sport a bigger deal in this town, right? Especially in this town where not too many people know about cricket. Like when I'm talking to my colleagues at work, they're all like, "Wow, you play cricket here and you have 400 players playing it? That is surprising. You'll never see that kind of involvement in a sport that they've never heard about."
When we started playing like 3 years back, there were like 9 or 10 teams. We've grown it's double the number of teams. It's a lot of people coming into Windsor, which is good. You know, and again, cricket brings a sense of community within our South Asian community. It's been really, really good. Of course, we play for fun. That's again, we're not playing like really competitive first-class level cricket, but it's amateur level cricket, which is good. We're an aging team at this point, but we want to make sure all the younger people that are coming in for their undergrads or, even for their masters early on, we're capturing we're making sure that they're introduced to cricket. We did not know cricket was happening in Windsor for a very long time. We want to make sure we give them the opportunity to come in to the scenes, and we have a batting cage and all of that stuff. So we have everything pretty much set for them to kind of be like the launch pad to take the next step. We're a family, and not just because of cricket. If anyone had to call me up at 3 a.m. in the morning to have a discussion with them, we would all be here.
As the holidays near, people are out searching for this year's hottest Christmas toys. Well, back in 1983, it was the Cabbage Patch doll that all the kids were after. And there were lots of parents in the region trying to make that happen. This is former CBC Windsor reporter Brian Worrell with a report on the extreme popularity of the doll.
This near riot in London, Ontario is similar to scenes across North America. The Coleco Toy Company has made 5 million Cabbage Patch Kids in 5 months, but can't keep up with the demand. The retail stores are out of stock except for the occasional shipment. At Windsor's Devonshire Mall this morning, Miracle Mart had 100 dolls. Almost 1,000 people waited hours for the store to open. The dolls were gone within 5 minutes.
It was really bad. People were pushing and shoving from all over.
Almost broke my arm coming in through the doors. They only opened the one door.
What is so important about a Cabbage Patch doll?
My little girl. It's for my little girl.
Some people have offered twice the going price for the dolls, and some stores have long lists of hopeful customers. But most merchants say they don't expect another shipment before Christmas. The manufacturers can't explain the fad, other than to say it's a good product which has received a lot of TV coverage. But to Kathy Marshenko, such concerns don't matter. Kara is simply her cuddly friend.
Bit of an overcast day and on the chillier side as well, but you can't complain after the beautiful weekend we just had. We have your full weather forecast coming up after the break. The Montreal Alouettes won the Grey Cup yesterday. It was a thrilling 28-24 victory over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in Hamilton. This is the Alouettes' first CFL title in 13 years, and their fans couldn't be happier. Corbino Duro tells us about the team's triumphant return to Montreal.
Their celebration on full display as the Montreal Alouettes stepped off the plane.
Having that cup on that plane ride home makes all the blood, the sweat, the tears all worth it.
Quarterback Cody Fajardo was named MVP for throwing a 19-yard touchdown pass in the final seconds of the game, helping the team end its 19-year drought with a 28-24 upset win over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Can't be any more prouder of this team. The way that everybody counted us out is what bonded us, and that bonded us from day one of training camp and all the way through the playoffs and in the Grey Cup, and even at halftime when we were down 10 points. You know, nobody batted an eyelash. We believed all year.
In a season that saw the team with a new starting quarterback, new coach, and new owner, few expected much from the Owls. But head coach Jason Moss saw something special in the team.
You would never be able to tell whether we were on a 3-game losing streak or a 4-game winning streak. We all came to work the same and put the work in, and I think that's why we're here today in front of you as champions.
After a mixed start, the Owls had momentum, winning their last 8 games.
When you give everything you have to an entire season and it culminates into a Grey Cup win, I think you're about exhausted as you could possibly be.
I've been waiting all my life to be a champion.
In a passionate post-game interview with RDS, defensive back Marc-Antoine Dequoy criticized the media and the CFL for what he felt was a lack of respect for the Alouettes and a lack of French at the Grey Cup. Today, he admitted his emotions got the best of him.
It's nothing against the English. When the comment I said is like I said, it was mostly about you can keep the English sign. It was mostly that. It just when you're live after a victory, it's hard to actually have the right words.
Now that they are back, fresh off their Grey Cup win, some of the players are looking forward to continuing celebrations with their families. They are also looking forward to celebrating with Montrealers on Wednesday during the parade. Corbino Duro, CBC News, Mirabel.
Colette, the Grey Cup final certainly wasn't the only good game yesterday. You know I have to say something about the Lions today. What a game. Trailing 26-14 with less than 5 minutes on the clock, only to come back and beat the Chicago Bears.
Montgomery, right? I did watch the highlights. Montgomery's the one who got that 1-yard touchdown, right, at the end?
Yes, yes. Beautiful. And it's almost like I could hear people cheering from, Detroit. I couldn't, but I felt like I almost could. First time since 1962 that the Lions have started the season 8-2. So I know there's so many excited Windsorites right now.
Yeah, I know, and I know they do have a chance to win their division, so good on them. As some of you know, I am a Chiefs fan. You wouldn't know it by my outfit tonight that they're maybe playing, but I actually am really enjoying this run for the Lions. It really is something spectacular, so I'm watching them too, just like I was watching the Broncos yesterday. I like to know what everyone else is doing. Let's show you what's going on, what everything that is going to be happening with our weather and get into that. So milder air. It's not just here to the west of us, way up into northwestern Ontario, and then the cooler air to the east as a ridge of high pressure is in place. That ridge is moving on. As it does, it allows the next system to be coming in, and this is a pretty moisture-laden one. It is going to be a rainfall event for southwestern Ontario, but if you're going to be traveling in the province tomorrow, you will encounter some mixed precipitation with some wet snow coming through. Those current temperatures, they look like this, but they're going to keep rising as we actually go through the overnight hours. They're going to be coming up. An easterly breeze, it's not super strong, although they've been increasing in intensity, and we will find them becoming stronger and gustier as we go through the night tonight and into the day on Tuesday. So some of the cloud cover in place, but otherwise we have dry conditions, and we keep those essentially as we go through the night. But by early tomorrow morning, now there could be a few outliers, a few sprinkles into the overnight hours. Early tomorrow morning, though, this rain will begin to reach us. And on the south side of this, along this cold front, very active weather tonight. All these areas are tornado watches, but tornado warnings where you see in red here. So yes, in November, late November, there have already been tornadoes and looking at activity there now. So we'll just focus in on the fact that we're going to have a wet Tuesday to contend with. As the low approaches, you see the moisture spreads out, gets heavier in intensity. So tomorrow morning, commute commute. You will be on wet roadways. It keeps moving on through. As we get towards afternoon, it gets a little bit lighter and there appears to be a break, but just know it will fill back in into the evening hours and then lift off again. So it's one of those things off and on. We're going to be seeing this right through. Over 20 millimeters of rain I would expect before it's over with. And there is that temperature coming up. Like I said, by tomorrow morning, we'll be up around 7 degrees. And that's why with those readings, we'll get eventually towards 9. It is just, for this area, Meg, a rain event.
Well, thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
You're going to want to stay tuned for a hot air balloon festival in Mexico that will make you want to visit. That's coming up. The latest developments from the war between Israel and Hamas have been fighting moved to the doorstep of another hospital in northern Gaza. Video shows Israeli tanks within a few hundred meters of an Indonesian hospital, which was built using donations from citizens of the Asian country. Staff say the building was hit by shelling early this morning. Like most health facilities in northern Gaza, it has largely ceased normal operations. It's unclear how many people, including patients, staff, and displaced people, are at the hospital. Meanwhile, the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City remains under Israeli control, but 28 premature babies from the facility are now under care in Egypt. The BBC reports that 3 others will remain in Gaza. A group of Canadian MPs visited a kibbutz north of Tel Aviv today to express their solidarity with Israelis.
It was really moving. It really made it very personal. It made me understand what it was like to live in a safe room, wondering if you were going to be alive for the very next minute or if your loved ones were going to be killed from moment to moment for over 24 hours. It explains a lot about the Israeli perception, why the entire political class in Israel, from the left to the right, all believes they need to get rid of Hamas.
The 2 Liberal and 3 Conservative MPs are part of a larger Canadian delegation to Israel. Today they listened to accounts from survivors of the October 7th attack by Hamas and visited a cemetery where some of the victims are buried. There are plenty of people who use shortened versions of their birth names, but for one Canadian couple, that ended up costing them a $10,000 trip to Ireland. Now they're warning others as the airlines ramp up for a busy holiday season. Erica Johnson has the Go Public investigation.
Hotel each night, breakfast.
Doug and Nancy Lee had their hearts set on a trip to Ireland with friends last August.
We were looking forward to something that we had never seen before.
But when they checked in, a Porter agent said there was a problem with Doug Lee's ticket. The ticket, booked by a friend, said Doug, but his passport said Douglas. Under federal law, names have to match.
They just said, it's wrong. It's not the proper use of your name, and so you can't go.
Turns out the group's tickets were booked on what's called a code share flight, an agreement between airlines to sell seats on each other's flights. So Lee paid Air Transat for the ticket, but his seat was on a Porter plane. Air Transat corrected Doug's name, but Porter couldn't see that fix. An air passenger rights advocate questions how Air Transat and Porter claimed they had a working code share.
Just claiming that our systems are not talking to each other is not an excuse.
He says airlines have a duty to fix minor ticket errors.
Any kind of correction that is needed to ensure that you are able to travel as contracted is something the airline has to reasonably cooperate with.
A spokesperson for Porter told Go Public it was up to Air Transat to correct the ticket. It wasn't clear why Porter couldn't see the fix in its system. Air Transat said it's working on updating its procedures so names can be corrected on code share flights.
This is lovely.
Yeah.
So nice.
After Go Public got involved, Air Transat said it will reimburse the couple for their flights, but they're still out about $8,000 for the Ireland tour. They want Air Transat to pay the full cost, saying the airline botched their dream trip.
Look at that, It's beautiful.
Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Visitors to central Mexico haven't just been admiring the scenery these last few days. They've been taking in a colorful display in the skies as part of a 4-day hot air balloon festival. More than 200 hot air balloons have filled the air with participants coming from 24 countries to take part. While many of the balloons are traditional, a few have been different, like the SpongeBob entry. The festival ends today. Hot air ballooning has a long history in Mexico. The first one took flight in the region almost 200 years ago. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.